It began with a guest list no one outside the inner walls of Sandringham was ever supposed to see. But when Princess Catherine quietly assumed oversight of the royal holiday invitations, panic reportedly spread through palace corridors with astonishing speed. One missing name sparked immediate whispers: Meghan's. And according to insiders, the decision wasn't symbolic, it was deliberate, permanent, and backed by forces inside the monarchy far more powerful than anyone first imagined. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Reports suggest the first sign of trouble came not through an announcement, but through silence. A draft list for Sandringham's private Christmas arrangements was allegedly circulated among trusted palace aides, and almost immediately, something felt different. Catherine's hand was there, not loudly, not theatrically, but firmly. Every name, every arrival window, every room assignment, every informal family privilege was reportedly placed under new scrutiny. This was no ordinary holiday preparation. This was control being reclaimed. For years, Sandringham had been more than a royal residence. It was a test of belonging. To be invited there meant access, trust, and acceptance inside the most private circle of the House of Windsor. So when Meghan and Harry's names were reportedly absent from early drafts, the message traveled faster than any official memo ever could. Palace staff whispered. Senior aides stiffened. Courtiers began asking whether this was Catherine's decision alone, William's instruction, or something approved by a deeper internal alliance. And according to insiders, William's support was immediate. After months of private tension, public wounds, media storms, and fractured loyalties, he reportedly saw Catherine's intervention not as punishment, but as protection. The monarchy, already carrying the weight of King Charles's illness and succession anxiety, could not afford another private gathering becoming a public battlefield. Sandringham had to remain secure. The children had to remain shielded. The crown had to breathe, without fear of betrayal. That was why the shift felt so icy. Catherine, once seen mainly as patient and diplomatic, was now being described as quietly decisive. The future queen was no longer simply enduring palace storms. She was shaping the walls that would keep them out. And as questions spread over who truly authorized Meghan's exclusion, one truth became impossible to ignore. Sandringham had become the latest front line in a royal divide that was no longer emotional alone, but institutional. But the missing invitation was only the surface of a far deeper conflict tied to legacy, loyalty, and the future control of the monarchy itself. Long before it became the center of this latest royal storm, Sandringham was considered sacred ground within the House of Windsor, a private sanctuary where monarchs escaped politics and preserved family order behind closed gates. But according to palace whispers, that sanctuary has now transformed into something else entirely. A fortress guarded by Catherine herself. Sandringham has always carried a weight that ordinary houses never could. It was never simply a place for holidays, dinners, or winter traditions. Inside royal memory, it represented privacy, inheritance, and the quiet rules that held the family together when the public stage became too cruel. For Queen Elizabeth II, it was deeply personal. It was where duty softened into family, where Christmas routines became royal ritual, and where the crown reminded itself that survival depended not only on ceremony, but on discipline behind closed doors. That is why Catherine's reported involvement felt so significant. She was not merely checking names on a list. She was stepping into a role once handled by senior aides, private secretaries, and old palace systems built to protect the monarch from embarrassment. Reports suggest she began reviewing the tone, timing, and security of family gatherings with unusual seriousness. Especially as King Charles continued facing health pressures that left the institution more exposed than anyone wanted to admit. William allegedly understood the danger immediately. To him, Sandringham was not just his father's estate or his grandmother's beloved refuge. It was a symbol of royal continuity at a moment when the monarchy could not afford chaos. After years of memoirs, interviews, accusations, and painful public fractures, every private invitation carried risk. One misplaced conversation could become a headline. One family exchange could be twisted into another global spectacle. And one open door could undo months of careful recovery. Palace insiders claimed concerns had been growing over what they called unpredictable disruptions around family events. The phrase sounded polite, but the meaning was sharp. Trust had been damaged. Boundaries had hardened. The old assumption that blood alone guaranteed access was fading fast. Catherine, once admired for patience, was now reportedly seen as the person willing to enforce the painful truth. Belonging to the family did not automatically mean belonging inside the crown's most protected spaces. So the guest list became more than paper. It became a test of power. Whoever controlled access to Sandringham controlled the emotional center of the monarchy. And if Meghan's name was absent, it was not simply an omission. It was a signal that the future royal order was being written quietly, firmly, and without apology. And as Catherine's authority inside royal circles quietly expanded, one explosive confrontation reportedly pushed the situation past the point of reconciliation. According to various interpretations circulating among royal insiders, the breaking point came during a tense private discussion involving senior palace advisors, William and Catherine herself. What began as a routine conversation about future family events allegedly turned into a chilling debate over trust, security, and the monarchy's survival in an era of constant exposure. By that stage, the concern was no longer just about who might attend Sandringham. It was about what could happen once they were inside. Insiders whisper that senior figures raised fears over private conversations leaking beyond palace walls, family emotions being recast as public drama, and personal moments becoming ammunition in another round of headlines. The monarchy had already learned, painfully, that privacy could no longer be assumed simply because a door was closed. Reports suggest the phrase media liability began circulating with unusual force. It was a cold phrase, almost corporate, but inside the royal machine it carried devastating meaning. It meant risk. It meant instability. It meant that certain names, once welcomed through family tradition, were now being measured against the damage they might bring. And Catherine, according to those familiar with the discussion, did not treat Sandringham as an emotional issue. She treated it as a protected royal environment that had to survive beyond personal hurt. William reportedly backed her without hesitation. For him, this was not only about Meghan or Harry. It was about George, Charlotte, Louis, King Charles, and the future crown. If Sandringham could not be kept secure, then nothing private in royal life was truly safe. That realization allegedly changed the tone of the room. What began as a conversation about invitations hardened into something closer to policy. Palace administrative streams hint that expanded screening measures were discussed for future private events. Not dramatic gates slammed shut, but quieter restrictions, tighter access, fewer assumptions, more controlled communication, and a sharper division between family connection and institutional trust. The old way had depended on loyalty. The new way would demand proof of it. And inevitably, Harry and Meghan's previous interviews, projects, accusations, and public revelations reportedly resurfaced, not as gossip, but as evidence in a larger palace calculation. Staff allegedly left that meeting understanding that Catherine's role had changed. She was no longer simply supporting William from beside the throne's future. She was helping define who would be allowed near it. But what truly stunned royal observers was not the exclusion itself, it was who quietly stood behind Catherine as the new policy took shape. For years, many viewed Catherine as the monarchy's calm and diplomatic figure, a future queen known more for restraint than confrontation. But insiders now suggest a different reality has emerged behind palace walls. One where Catherine, William, and the Old Guard have reportedly formed a powerful alliance determined to protect what they call the monarchy's sacred stability at all costs. Reports suggest Princess Anne privately approved Catherine's growing role almost immediately. That approval mattered. Anne has long been seen as one of the monarchy's toughest guardians, a royal figure who understands that survival is not built on emotion, but on rules, discipline, and duty. So when Catherine allegedly stepped deeper into internal family matters, it was not treated as a sudden power grab. It was treated as the rise of a future queen, learning how to defend the institution before the crown ever touched her head. Palace aides allegedly began referring to a new protective structure around William's household. The phrase sounded quiet, but its meaning was brutal. Access would narrow. Trust would be earned, not assumed. Private ceremonies, estate gatherings, and family occasions would no longer be managed only through tradition. They would be guarded through judgment, caution, and loyalty. Catherine reportedly became more involved in ceremonial planning and private estate management because the monarchy's internal rhythm had changed. King Charles's health struggles had created a painful urgency around succession planning, and everyone inside the firm understood what that meant. The future was no longer distant. It was moving closer with every difficult week, every public appearance, every whispered update from palace circles. William needed stability. The crown needed confidence. And Catherine, according to insiders, became central to both. Senior courtiers whisper that discretion had become the new currency of royal life. After years of interviews, memoirs, accusations, and public fractures, palace trust was no longer soft or sentimental. It had hardened into a requirement. Those who protected the crown remained close. Those who exposed its wounds were pushed further away. That is why Sandringham became symbolic. The guest list was not just about dinner, Christmas, or family tradition. It became a quiet declaration that William and Catherine were preparing for a monarchy with fewer loose ends and fewer emotional risks. Catherine's calm face had not disappeared, but behind it, insiders now saw something sharper: resolve. And while the palace never publicly acknowledged the alleged ban, subtle actions behind the scenes reportedly made the message impossible to misunderstand. There were no dramatic public statements, no televised confrontations, no official declaration from Buckingham Palace. Instead, according to royal commentators and insiders familiar with palace operations, the counterstrike unfolded through silence, the most devastating weapon the monarchy has always possessed. Harry and Meghan reportedly received no direct confirmation that the Sandringham doors were closed. That was the power of it. Nothing was shouted, nothing was publicly denied, and nothing was written in a way that could easily become another headline. The palace simply allowed distance to grow. Calls became cooler. Planning became vague. Arrangements moved forward without them. And in that silence, the message became sharper than any official ban could have been. Palace staff allegedly avoided discussing the holiday arrangements in public or even in wider internal circles. Those who knew, knew. Those who did not were left guessing. This was how the monarchy had survived scandal after scandal, not by feeding every fire, but by starving it. Catherine's office reportedly understood that open punishment could become another weapon in the hands of critics. So, the response remained quiet, controlled, and almost impossible to challenge. Over time, insiders claim certain privileges began to disappear. Informal access. Assumed updates. Soft channels of communication. The comfortable idea that family connection automatically guaranteed entry into royal spaces. Piece by piece, those old bridges reportedly became narrower. Reports suggest Catherine's team began exercising tighter oversight over who could enter private family circles, how arrangements were handled, and which names remained close to the center of royal life. Media analysts described it not as a loud exile, but as social and institutional distancing. That phrase captured the cruelty and brilliance of the move. It was not emotional revenge. It was structure. It was policy wrapped in politeness. It was the monarchy saying nothing while changing everything. And as Meghan's absence became more noticeable, public attention intensified. People began asking whether this was temporary, whether reconciliation was still possible, or whether Sandringham had quietly become the line that could not be crossed. The palace offered no answer. Catherine offered no explanation. William offered no softening. The silence remained, cold and deliberate. But behind the icy silence and carefully managed appearances, an even larger question was beginning to emerge about the monarchy's future under William and Catherine. As King Charles continues facing exhausting personal and constitutional pressures, reports increasingly suggest that Prince William has already begun shaping the monarchy he intends to inherit. And according to those watching closely, Catherine's actions at Sandringham may have revealed exactly what that future will look like. William's reported vision is not built on noise. It is built on discipline. After years of emotional interviews, family accusations, public wounds, and endless media battles, insiders suggest he has grown convinced that the monarchy cannot survive if private chaos keeps spilling into public life. The crown, in his view, must feel steady again. Smaller, stronger, harder to penetrate, less vulnerable to those who enter royal spaces but refuse royal restraint. That is where Catherine's role becomes impossible to ignore. Sources suggest she is not simply supporting William's future reign from the sidelines. She is helping shape its emotional and institutional boundaries. Her involvement at Sandringham reportedly showed how the next royal era may operate, quietly, firmly, and without begging for approval from those who have already broken trust. Palace observers claim William and Catherine favor a tighter structure, one where access is no longer automatic, and family ties alone are not enough. Loyalty matters. Discretion matters. The ability to protect the institution matters more than titles, popularity, or old sentimental expectations. In that world, invitations become signals. Silence becomes policy. Absence becomes a verdict. The stakes are enormous because public confidence has already been tested. Scandals, interviews, memoirs, and years of division have left the monarchy fighting to look calm, while storms rage beneath the surface. William reportedly understands that once he becomes king, he cannot inherit a palace full of unresolved threats. He must inherit order. And Catherine, with her careful discipline and growing authority, appears to be helping build that order before the crown officially changes hands. That is why Sandringham's guest oversight is being viewed by some as succession-era preparation. Not a family slight, not a seasonal argument. A rehearsal for the monarchy William intends to lead. Colder, perhaps. More controlled, certainly. But in the eyes of the old guard, necessary. And as the dust settled around Sandringham, many insiders began realizing this story was never just about one missing invitation. What once appeared to be a temporary royal disagreement has now reportedly hardened into something far more permanent. Behind palace gates, beneath ceremonial smiles and carefully staged appearances, insiders whisper that the emotional divide inside the House of Windsor may no longer be repairable. Reports suggest communication between royal households has become increasingly formal, careful, and limited. The warmth of old family channels has allegedly been replaced by controlled messages, cautious wording, and long silences that say more than any public statement ever could. Where there was once the possibility of private healing, there is now procedure. Where there was once family emotion, there is now palace management. Family gatherings, according to insiders, have transformed into tightly managed operations. Every arrival, every invitation, every private exchange now carries the weight of risk. The monarchy can no longer pretend that pain behind closed doors will remain behind closed doors. That trust, once broken, has become the deepest wound of all. Royal commentators describe it as trust erosion. And inside the firm, that phrase reportedly cuts harder than scandal itself. For Catherine, the stakes are deeply personal. She is not only protecting a future monarchy. She is protecting George, Charlotte, and Louis from being pulled into instability they never created. Reports suggest she has become increasingly determined to ensure her children grow up inside a royal structure that feels secure, not exposed. And that determination has made her far less willing to tolerate uncertainty around the family's most private spaces. William allegedly shares that view with absolute seriousness. After years of reputational damage, public accusations, and emotional fallout, he is reportedly unwilling to risk the crown's future for the sake of appearances. To him, reconciliation without trust would not be healing. It would be weakness disguised as kindness. And the monarchy, already under pressure, cannot afford another wound dressed up as forgiveness. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan's outsider status has become more normalized with every passing season. What once felt shocking now feels expected. Their absence from key royal moments no longer creates the same surprise, it confirms a pattern. Palace insiders fear any future return would require extraordinary concessions, not just polite words or public smiles, but proof that discretion, loyalty, and restraint can be restored. That is why this divide feels different. It is no longer simply about hurt feelings. It is about whether the monarchy can survive while keeping its doors open to those it no longer fully trusts. But perhaps the most chilling realization of all was what Catherine's rise revealed about the monarchy's next chapter. In the end, the story of Sandringham was never truly about a guest list. It was about power, about who protects the institution, who controls access to its most sacred spaces, and who ultimately decides the future direction of the crown when the old era finally fades into history. Catherine emerges from this reported battle as a far more influential figure than many had ever imagined. Not loud, not reckless, not driven by spectacle, but steady, watchful, and increasingly central to the machinery of royal survival. The woman once praised mainly for patience is now being described by insiders as one of the monarchy's quietest enforcers, someone who understands that a future queen cannot only comfort the institution, she must also defend it. Sandringham, in that sense, has become more than a royal estate. It has become a boundary line, a symbol of how tightly the monarchy may now guard its private world after years of public wounds and personal betrayals. Reports suggest the old guard sees Catherine not as a disruptor, but as a stabilizing force, a figure capable of helping William lead a more disciplined era when emotional diplomacy is no longer enough. That shift is what makes Meghan's reported exclusion so powerful. It is not merely about one woman missing one gathering. It is about the consequences of broken trust inside a family that is also an institution. Once private pain becomes public currency, every doorway becomes harder to reopen. Every invitation becomes heavier. Every silence becomes a warning. William and Catherine are reportedly preparing for a monarchy that will be smaller, colder, and more controlled, but also, in their view, stronger. A monarchy where loyalty matters more than noise, where discretion matters more than celebrity, and where the crown is protected even when the family behind it suffers. And that is the final tragedy of Sandringham. The palace may survive, the institution may steady itself, the future may become clearer, but the cost is emotional distance, hardened boundaries, and a family divide that no holiday invitation can easily repair. In the House of Windsor, silence has always carried power. This time, it may have carried the final verdict. Because within the House of Windsor, invitations may come and go, but loyalty, once lost, is rarely restored. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.